2019, how did that happen? But we're here. And in 2019, we'd like to discuss, over the course of our video blogs and our written blogs, and maybe some other mediums, how you sustain competitive advantage in an organization. I'm really interested in that topic. I read a book, had to be almost 20 years ago. I don't think I have the book anymore, but it was called The Discipline of Market Leaders, and it made the case that there were really only three ways to sustain competitive advantage in an organization. That may have changed. We may learn more in the course of this year, but that's going to be our subject matter. How do you sustain that over the course of years, decades, maybe even generations? And it seems appropriate that we start that conversation here at our own 22-year-old firm. So I have my friends Dan Burkholder and Gina Breslin here with me today to respond to that question. How are we in the process of creating competitive advantage, differentiation here at North Group?
Quite frankly, I think this answer is somewhat simple. It requires a group of people dedicated to making good decisions for folks whose names they don't even know yet. To be able to establish an anchor for the organization that says here is why we show up every day, how we behave, and what we do to make those things happen. In my mind, if we can establish those guiding principles, they end up serving as bumpers in a bowling lane, I like to call it, that keep an organization and the individuals that comprise it from ever engaging in behaviors that don't work for this organization.
Right, I agree, Dan. I think when an organization has those core values and, everybody knows exactly what we believe, kind of why we believe it, and those become those guardrails, right? So now we know, how we are supposed to behave, and that becomes the foundation for making decisions.
Yeah, I think one particular author that I like to read recently said, "I will not be writing any more stories relative to the books that I've composed, but I welcome other people writing about them." And he went on to explain that, for over 10 years in their case, I have been building this home, and I didn't realize that there were compartments that I built in that I didn't recognize anymore. I walked past them all the time, and it took people walking in this home on a regular basis to say, "Hey, this is really cool what you built here. Did you ever notice X?" And we see that in the way people from next generations of organizations take the purpose, mission sometimes that's called, they take the values, guiding behaviors, and they start engaging in them in ways that the previous generation never even thought about. Not that they didn't think them possible, they just didn't think about them.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to tell your story, right? That how you got to where you are today, right? Because those things that you don't recognize anymore, they're who you are as an organization.
Sure.
You want to create the culture that clearly, attracts the type of people that you want, the people with the characteristics that you're looking for in your organization, and then repels those folks that maybe aren't a right fit.
What are some of those keys here?
Gina mentioned this concept earlier, but it's the idea that there is no policing that happens here from a top-down or managerial perspective. Really, the concept is the organization maintains that accountability, and healthy bodies do that. Organizations that establish a good ethic early, why are we here? How do we behave? What do we do? They essentially function the same way. The members of the body know when there might be something a little out of place, and in a caring way, in a way that builds character in one another, we maintain accountability toward that. We have difficult conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have an organization, and I think we do this here at North Group, we're willing to call somebody out in a very respectful way. I'm not sure that was on track with who we are. You can have that conversation. Ultimately, it begins with trust, and I think at North Group we trust each other. And I know that Dan has my back, Roger has my back, Daryl has my back, right? And so when you've created that environment for us, I think it's definitely one of our differentiators.
2019 is going to be fun because we're going to be talking to a bunch of different business leaders and asking them the same questions we asked here today. And I think we're going to learn something.